Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing Bhagavad Gita as it is chapter 4, text 36. Api ched asi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah sarvam gnanaplavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. Here Krishna says, having obtained knowledge from a bona fide spiritual master, and such knowledge can be attained even by a papebhyaha, even if one is a sarvebhyaha papakrittamaha, not just papebhyaha. Papa means sin. Papebhyaha means one who is sinful. Papebhyaha asi chet, even if one is sinful, what to speak of sinful? Sarvebhyaha papakrittamaha, he is the best of all sinners. But if he takes shelter of this sarvam gnana plavena, plava means boat, gnana plava means the boat of transcendental knowledge given by the spiritual master. We were discussing about Diksha Guru. Divya Jnana Kshapayati iti Diksha. One who can give the transcendental knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is Divya Jnana. Only a self-realized spiritual master can give that. And that Gnana is compared to like a boat. Gnana Plavena eva sarvam vrijinam santarishyasi. If one takes shelter of such a knowledge, which is compared to like a boat in this ocean of material existence, that can make us cross. Santarishyasi vrijinam. Vrijinam means the ocean of miseries. You can cross completely if you take shelter of this boat of transcendental knowledge. So Prabhupada translates this very nicely. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you'll be able to cross over the ocean of material miseries. Prabhupada writes in the purport a very powerful point. In the ocean, however expert a swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe, isn't it? Or sometimes Chaitanya Charitamrita says, if you think you can cross the ocean by holding the tail of a dog, it's like that. Our efforts, I may be a great swimmer, or I may have somebody who can get me across, but they are all considered insignificant, like these examples. However strong you are swimmer, you must be struggling. So, and then Prabhupada says, if someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, say a boat comes and a person from the boat lifts you and places you on the boat, then he is the greatest savior. So, that is a spiritual master. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That is why the spiritual master is praised like this. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya. I am dwelling in this darkness of ignorance. And the spiritual master, he has opened my eyes, Chakshuhu Unmilitam, with the torch of knowledge, Gnananjana Shalakaya, Chakshuhu Unmilitam, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And to such a spiritual master, I offer my respectful obeisances. In the Guru Puja, we sing in our temples every day. Chakshudan dilo jai, janme janme prabhu jai, divya gyan hriday prakashito. The spiritual master, he gives that chakshudan. He gives that real eyes with which to see this world. The eyes with which we see this world we may say, oh, I am also seeing, but with what vichara you are seeing? What you are seeing with the vichara of sense gratification. Oh, this is for me. But the real eyes of knowledge is this is not for my enjoyment. Everything is made for Krishna's enjoyment. And I am supposed to participate in his enjoyment by providing, by aiding in his enjoyment. Thereby, I also get enjoyment. This is the kind of chakshu we need. And by that Divya Gyan, Chakshudan Diloje Janme Janme Prabhu say, Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito, he gives the Divya Gyan in the heart, by which Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Yate. It arises, Prema Bhakti, in our heart. And Avidya Vinash Yate, our nescience is removed. Our material distress is vanquished. This is one of the first things that happen when you take to bhakti. Your material distress becomes vanquished. Does it mean our material miseries are completely erased by Krishna? Then the devotee, the moment he surrenders, he should not have any material problems. But we see in our history in scriptures, great devotees underwent significant problems. Sanatan Goswami, he gave up everything, but he was put in jail and he had to somehow get out of the jail and he had to walk through that treacherous journey through the jungles. He contracted a deadly disease, infectious disease, by which he got sores all over the body, blood oozing out of those, pus is coming, horrible. Haridas Thakur, he was caned in 22 marketplaces, publicly humiliated. So in this way, does this, once you, when it says Vrijinam Santarishyasi, when the material, when by bhakti material miseries or material reactions are vanquished, what does it mean? What it means is that it's not that we will have zero problems as a devotee. It's like you are entering a freeway and now after entering the freeway, now you are perplexed. Oh, this is too problematic for me. That's why many people don't drive on these freeways. And now you give up, oh my God, what to do? You have to learn the right way of driving. You cannot suddenly have somebody come and stop all the traffic. You chose to enter the freeway, isn't it? You chose to come to this material world and be placed in the midst of this material miseries. Dukkhalayam Ashashpatam. Krishna told you, but still you came by your free will. So you entered the freeway with all the traffic. Can the traffic be stopped? That's the nature of the freeway. You cannot convert a freeway to free traffic less. But when you take shelter of the Lord, you can learn the proper way of driving. You can learn how to maneuver. So by Krishna consciousness, by the boat of transcendental knowledge, it's not that we won't have any problems, but we will start viewing the problems in the right perspective. How big is it compared to the biggest problems of solving my birth and death? The problems seem very insignificant. Like, for example, like I was some years ago, I was taking my car out of the garage and I was just packing up. And the car broke down. And we didn't know what was the problem. It was not moving. It was giving a lot of screeching sound. And so we had to stop. And so a neighbor who happened to be a little knowledgeable about cars, he came down and he was looking why the car was not moving. And he looked at underneath the car and he saw that this axle had broken. The axle which ties the car together, the chassis, the body, that was broken. And he said, "You are very lucky." Why? Because if this had happened when you are actually driving on the street, I cannot even imagine what kind of tragedy it would have been. And until that time I was thinking, oh my God, the car broke down. I have to spend so much money, thousands of dollars. Oh, what a great tragedy, what a great distress. Why it happened? I was thinking like that. But the moment he said that, all of that distress became so insignificant. I was actually became happy because Krishna saved me from a greatest tragedy, isn't it? It would have been a biggest disaster if that had happened with my family in there, in the car. So compared to that, what is this? This is nothing. I can spend a few $1,000s and get it repaired. Nothing. So by Krishna conscious knowledge, we think we are part and parcel of Krishna. Our actual goal is to beat death, go back to Krishna. And compared to that, my journey, I'm going to meet Krishna at the end of life, or I'm at least getting another human body by Krishna conscious practices. Compared to that, all these other insignificant distresses will become tiny, will become, they say, puny and trivial. So that is the advantage. That's what it means by your miseries will be vanquished. You will become transcendental to these miseries. Take Arjuna's problems, for instance. He had to face the biggest material problem that we would have ever imagined, killing his own relatives and his own gurus, his own loved ones. But with transcendental knowledge, he applied that spiritual vision. Then he put the problem in proper perspective. And eventually it turned out that it was a problem he created in his mind because of his insufficient knowledge. Because these relatives are just bodily, temporary relations. Tomorrow, the same spirit soul in that body may be born as an enemy. Like Chitraketu, the great king Chitraketu, whatever he did not get a son. He married so many wives. He felt his life was useless. And finally, Angira came and Chitraketu was morose and Angira asked, why are you morose? Oh, I want a son. Angira was thinking, oh, this king does not have a son in his destiny, but he was hankering for son. But Chitraketu was relentless. And Angira said, okay, I'll bless you with a son, but the same son which gives you happiness will also give you tremendous distress. But Chitraketu didn't care. And so soon the first wife became pregnant and he got the son. And he started to become so happy, so jubilant. And he started to treat the first wife so nicely. And he was on cloud 9. And he started to neglect other wives. And they thought, that's it. It's the end of life for them. He is not going to care for us anymore. We have to live like this pitifully until the end of our lives. And with extreme measure, unimaginably, out of enviousness, they poisoned that boy and killed that boy. And all of Chitraketu's happiness turned into a great devastation, an ocean of misery. He was lamenting inconsolably. And at that time again Angira came along with Narada Muni. And in order to preach to him, Narada Muni, out of his mystic power, he brought this boy temporarily back to life. And the boy started to speak. Narada said, "Hey, why did you leave your father and mother and went away untimely?" And then the boy started to speak. "Oh, who is my father and mother? I have had innumerable lifetimes in various bodies, animal bodies, demigod bodies, human bodies. Who is my father? Who is father and mother you are referring to?" So like this, he started to speak philosophy. And then he went back to being dead. And then Chitraketu became sober. And Narada Muni and Angira started to preach to him how the living entity is eternal, but we take birth in various species. We become relative of somebody, son of somebody, father of somebody, mother, or whatever it is. And it is based on the bodily concept, temporary. Actually, the soul is part and parcel of Krishna. And so Narada Muni preached to Chitraketu not to lament for his so-called dead son. And then after hearing those instructions, Chitraketu and his wife, they could understand that all relationships in this material world are causes of misery. And the queens who had administered poison, they were very ashamed. They atoned and gave up their aspiration to have children. And then Narada Muni, he instructed Chitraketu about the Supreme Lord, and he returned to his own abode. The instructions he gave were called Mahavidya, and after thus being initiated, Chitraketu, he started to chant that Mahavidya, and after 1 week he attained the presence, audience of Lord Sankarshana, and he became perfected. He attained the status as a Gandharva. He started to narrate the glorious pastimes of the Lord. So you see, either Arjuna or Chitraketu or anybody, the misery did not go away. In fact, by hankering for happiness in this world, we end up in misery. The more you chase happiness, happiness anyway is destined. But misery also is accompanying happiness, will also accompany happiness. Anything you get in this world, there are two sides of the same coin. Happiness and misery. You eat a nice feast, either your weight will increase or you have to burn down the fat by running. Either way, it's misery. So happiness comes with misery. Wealth, you may think you are happy, but you might invite enemies both in family and outside, or you may lose that in terms of investment. You may lose health to protect or to work hard. So whatever you seek in this world, it will come with misery. So you cannot escape misery in this world. Bhagavatam, in the 7th canto, it talks about this very nice natural story. There were a pair of pigeons. They had many babies. And one day these pigeon parents went to the forest to bring some food for their children and for themselves. And while in the forest, they sat on a branch of a tree under which there were green grasses. They were remembering their marriage ceremony and other lovable pastimes. They were enjoying good time with each other, with their beaks hugging and all that. And then the she pigeon, she saw several grains of rice on the grass and she said, "Oh, let's go and pick up these grains of rice." And then the male pigeon said, "Oh, there is no businessman or farmer around. Where has the rice come from? Don't go there. Somebody trap. It's a trap. The hunter will capture you in his trap." And the she pigeon said, "No, I don't believe you. I don't care. Nobody is there." And she flew down. And meanwhile, this hunter who was lurking behind, and he pulled the string, and the female pigeon became entrapped in the net. She started to weep bitterly. And then the male pigeon saw this and he was exclaiming, "Oh, my wife is there in the hunter's trap. He will kill her. Oh, God is very cruel. Why am I not dead in the trap with my wife outside? My wife can support our children, but I cannot support." And while he was fully absorbed in weeping, the hunter from behind the tree took his bow and arrow and shot and killed him. And he carried both of them to his home and he cooked them and ate them, unfortunately. See how the death is always hanging on our head. Whether today or tomorrow, after 10 years, 20 years, even if one lives for hundreds of years, death will be there. Mrityuhu sarvaharaskyaham. That is the biggest problem that we have to solve. All these smaller, insignificant problems, we become so carried away. We try to find solution after solution. We spend the whole lifetime to find solution after solution for insignificant problems without finding the real solution, which is Krishna. आश्चर्यमेतद्धि मनुष्यलोके सुधां परित्यज्य विषं पिबन्ति नामानि नारायणगोचराणि त्यक्त्वान्यवाचः कुहकाः पठन्ति. So Kulashekara Acharya says, it is so much ascharya, so much surprise, manushya-loke, sudham parityajya visham pibanti. They are drinking poison thinking to be nectar. And they have left the nectar of namani narayana gocharani. The names of Narayana are Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the spiritual master gives this knowledge by which all these miseries become vanquished, become insignificant. Krishna takes charge of our lives. One who is nicely, say, it's a general thing, right? If a son is nicely studying, the father gives him all amenities. Oh, my son is so nicely studying, let me buy this for him. Let me buy a nice scientific calculator. Let me buy a nice shoe for him. Let me buy a nice, whatever, the bag or instruments. He will give everything nice because he is using his proper for his education. So when we are focused on Krishna consciousness, Krishna gives everything material also we will have without any issues. And then the best thing is, one need not worry about their literacy or qualification. This is a beautiful thing about Krishna consciousness. We don't have to gradually progress from being a Vikarmi or a Chandala or a Papi to a Sudra to a Vaishya to Kshatriya to Brahmana, and then give up everything and then surrender to Krishna. Here, what this verse is assuring is, even if you are a papebhyaha, papakruttamaha, Bhagavatam classifies these people. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavanaha Khasadayaha. Yenye, even the many other people, very sinful people. But if they, yad apashrayashrayaha, if they take shelter of a devotee who has taken shelter of a devotee who has eventually taken shelter of Krishna, then Shuddhyanti Tasmai, they all become purified. Prabha Vishnave Namaha, that is the power of Lord Vishnu. In Nectar of Devotion, there is this beautiful passage I came across. Rupa Goswami writes, Prabhupada translates, of course. In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement praising the Tulasi tree as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Tulasi tree, which can immediately vanquish volumes of sinful activities. Simply by seeing or touching this tree, one can become relieved from all distresses and diseases. Simply by offering obeisances to and pouring water on the Tulsi tree, one can become freed from the fear of being sent to the court of Yamaraja. If someone sows a Tulsi tree somewhere, certainly he becomes devoted to Lord Krishna. And when the Tulsi leaves are offered in devotion at the lotus feet of Krishna, there is the full development of love of Godhead. See, so many amenities are there in devotional service. So, a intelligent person instantly takes. All we need is faith and association of devotees. And eventually, when Krishna takes charge of us, we don't have to worry about anything. It doesn't matter what our background is, how papi we are. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Stop here. Anyone has any other questions or comments? Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.